sports fans, and welcome to another exciting episode of Nick's Picks. I am your host, Nick, the main event Barnes. And as we dive off into the show today, we're going to be talking baseball. And right off rip, we see our divisions have been wrapped up in certain divisions. We see the Rays have wrapped up the American League East. We see the Braves have wrapped up the National League East. The Dodgers have wrapped up the West with the best record in baseball. The Athletics have wrapped up the West in the AL. The Central Division title is still yet to be determined, but there we'll find out those later on. Now, what baseball has done this year, they've done something very interesting. They have went to a 16-game format. They went something to what the NBA does, a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 type series. So you'll see those series throughout baseball this year. Now, I will tell you this. A team that's dangerous right now, a team you really don't want to play right now would be the Marlins. I know you're saying they didn't have a great record. They didn't. But what Derek Jeter has done being the manager of that team, he has energized that franchise. He has given them a little bit of swagger that you've seen back in '97 when that team went deep into the World Series. And I think that Jeter, with his championship experience, he's going to help the Marlins guide the playoffs. So I would hate to see them in the first round. Now, here's another interesting fact. The Washington Nationals, defending World Series champs, they will not play in the postseason this year. I mean, we could go on and on about what went wrong in Washington this year. Of course, the injuries, were huge, but everybody had to face injuries this year. See, what happened with baseball this year, you had to start fast. If you didn't start fast, you were going to be in trouble of missing the postseason. And that's what happened to Washington. They were unable to get out the gate quick. Certain teams like Tampa, the Dodgers, Atlanta, they got out the gate quick. They went runs early, and that's what allowed them to put them in position, because we're facing a microcosm this year of baseball. You don't have that long 162-game stretch where you have time to prepare your team. Your hitters can find their groove. Your pitchers can find their groove, and you didn't have that kind of time this year, and so that's what happened to Washington. So they are no longer will be considered in the postseason this year. So we will have a new World Series champ. Now, next week, we will get more in-depth in talking about the possible playoff matchups and predictions and things of that nature when it comes to the playoffs next week. As we continue to shift gears, we're going to go over to the NBA. Right now, the Heat is leading that series 3-2. I still think the Heat will finish that series off and finish that series with a 4-2 win. The Lakers are up 3-1. Big, huge question mark with the Lakers. Anthony Davis turns his ankle. He is listed as questionable. I think he will play that game. It's a pivotal game. I think the Lakers will win that series and finish out my prediction at 4-1. And that way we will get our Heat and Lakers series. Now, understand this. The Lakers, Los Angeles may become title town because of the simple fact that, hey, I think the Dodgers will win the World Series. Just an early preview on that. And I think the Lakers will win the NBA title. So what ends up happening? LA is now title town. How about that? And the Rams are playing as good as they are. Hey, who knows? So anyway, as we continue to go on and dive into the world of sports, college football is back. Almost to full capacity. The SEC started off this week, as well as the ACC continues play. The Big Ten will pick up play here coming up soon. And the Pac-12 has reversed their decision to not play football, and they will play a condensed schedule starting in December, I believe. November. So now, with that being said, here's the problem I have with that. Now you're going to have these teams that win 7 games, 8 games, and now they should be clamoring for the fact that they should be able to be in the college football playoff conversation. I don't agree with that. I think in order to be in the conversation, you need to play a full season. And a lot of these teams in the Pac-12, they will not get that opportunity too. The Big Ten now, that I will say the Big Ten has kind of come up with a formula that's going to give their teams chances to play a few more games. So they will have the opportunity to be in the conversation. But I really don't think the Pac-12 should be considered in the playoff conversation. But hey, that's just my opinion. So at the end of the day, the NCAA will make that decision. One thing I will say, I would hate to be in the room to have to make the decision on who gets in and who doesn't get in. You have a team that played 10 games and they may have lost 1 versus a team that played 7 games and they may have lost 1, but they were the conference champ. I would hate to have to make that call because at the end of the day, I think you should go with the team that played the most games. So we'll see what happens. Now, one thing the NCAA did announce that they will allow players to keep their eligibility for this year. So this year will basically be a wash year. So if you're a true freshman playing football this year, you can play in every game that your team plays in or participates in and still be considered a true freshman next year. So I think that's going to help teams in the long run, although I don't know how that's going to affect teams as far as recruiting goes, because now you have this guy who's a freshman who played really well. I'm a true freshman coming in, so now I came in under the assumption that maybe this guy will be gone in 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be, if he's a really good player. But now he's there, so now I have to compete with him week in and week out. So we'll see what happens with that. But a great move on the NCAA. I think that will help a lot of teams that was heavy in the portal. I think that will help a lot of these freshman guys become better players next season. I think we're going to see a really quality football season next year. So as we continue to shift gears, we're going to dive off into the NFL. And I want to tell you something about injuries this year and how impactful they're going to be, not only for this year, but going into next year's draft. I know you're saying, well, that's a long ways away. It is. But understand this. Let's look at the Saquon Barkley. Let's look at Bosa. Let's look at some of these major injuries that we've had early in this season, and these guys are done for the year. Though, I mean, these are impactful guys for their particular organizations. So now these guys are gone. And let's just say the Giants just go 2-14 this year. And if they go 2-14, they get the number one pick. They don't need a quarterback. Trevor Lawrence will not be the number one pick. So now you'll see Sewell, the offensive tackle for Oregon, he goes number one. Let's say San Francisco, they have Garoppolo there. They don't need a number one pick. They don't need a number one quarterback. And then you look at my team, my Dolphins team, who, by the way, pulled a victory out on Thursday early in this season. Shout out to Brian Flores and the Dolphins staff for getting that early season victory. Let's say the Dolphins tank the rest of the year. They're not going to need a quarterback. They're set. They took Tua. So now you could possibly see these three teams all go 1, 2, 3, and then none of them will need a quarterback. So Trevor Lawrence could potentially fall all the way down to number 5 in the pick. Justin Fields the same way. So these injuries are impactful, not only for right now, but moving forward in the future. I told Jacksonville, I don't know if they listened to me, just tank the rest of this year. Here's a team that needs a quarterback. They will benefit from being one of the worst teams in the league. You will get probably a number one surefire draft pick in Trevor Lawrence, a guy who's pretty much a can't-miss product. So those are just a few examples of how these injuries are playing a huge part in what's going on in the NFL. As we continue to dive off into the season, we have some huge matchups. We'll talk about them as we get into our predictions. In this segment that's called What Were You Thinking? And tonight's What Were You Thinking moment belongs to Cam Newton. For the last 2 weeks, I've watched Cam try to extend plays and do things to try to make first downs, but at the end of the day, what he's doing, he's hurting himself, putting himself in a position to get hurt. Cam, I need you to learn how to slide. I need you to learn how to get out of bounds, because at the end of the day, if you want to extend your career with the Patriots, which is a perfect fit for you in that offense, you need to learn how to slide and get out of bounds. Lamar Jackson does it. He gets his big runs. He gets out of bounds. He slides because he knows he has to protect his body. Cam, I need you to do the same. Now we're going to dive right off into our picks this week, and our first game is going to be
49ers Giants.
49ers and the Giants. Man, look here, losing Saquon last week was big for the Giants. And, of course, Bosa is out for the 49ers. But at the end of the day, I'm going with the 49ers. Next game is
Washington Browns.
Washington and Browns. Intriguing matchup. But at the end of the day, I think there's enough talent surrounding Baker Mayfield that the Browns will get the W. So I'm going to go with the Browns. Next game is going to be
Bengals, Eagles.
The Bengals and the Eagles. What a game. Joe Burrow should throw for 300-plus yards yet again, but at the end of the day, I think the Eagles will come away with a victory finally. So our next game is going to be
Raiders, Patriots.
Raiders and the Patriots. Great game, intriguing matchup. But at the end of the day, I think the Patriots will have just enough to finally knock the Raiders from the unbeaten ranks. Next game is going to be
Bears, Falcons.
Bears and the Falcons. You want to talk about a team that could blow a lead? Man, the Falcons is just that team. But guess what? You got the Bears this week. That'll be a remedy for success. And I like the Falcons to finally get a W. Next game is going to be
Rams, Bills.
Rams and the Bills. This should be a high explosive, high octane game. But at the end of the day, I think the Bills defense will make just enough plays for the Bills to come out with a victory. Next game is going to be
Texans, Steelers.
Texans and the Steelers. You want to talk about a team that's in need of a victory? Texas is in need of a victory, but unfortunately, it won't come this week because Ben Roethlisberger is super hot, and I like the Steelers. Next game is going to be
Titans, Vikings.
Titans and the Vikings. Man, look at here. You want to talk about another team that has joined the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes? That is the Vikings. You done gave Kirk Cousins all this money. He's doing absolutely nothing for you. Look for the Titans to have a good day and Derrick Henry to have a breakout game. I like the Titans in that game. Next game.
Panthers, Chargers.
Panthers and the Chargers. You want to talk about a heartbreak team. The Panthers is that team. But today, they're going to get that W. I like the Panthers. Next game is going to be
Jets, Colts.
Jets and the Colts. Man, you want to talk about a pick'em game? That's a pick'em game. But I believe Phillip Rivers is going to add some type of validity to that offense. And I think the Colts will get a W this week. Our next game is going to be
Cowboys, Seahawks.
Man, what a great game. This is going to be a great high-scoring game. But unfortunately, Russell Wilson is playing lights out. The old guard who I called early in the season, he is just dominating right now. And I like Seattle to get the W there. Next game is
Lions, Cardinals.
Lions and the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, that's that dude, y'all. That young man has been playing lights out football, and with the addition of D-Hop added to that offense, man, they are going on a tear. And I do believe he's extended Larry Fitzgerald's career for another couple of years. So I'm going with Arizona in that game. Next game is going to be
Buccaneers, Broncos.
Buccaneers and the Broncos. Listen here, man. Tom Brady is finally finding some success with Tampa Bay. I didn't say that he wouldn't, but I don't think it's going to be enough success to win the Super Bowl. But I do think they get the W in this game. Next game will be
Packers, Saints.
Packers and the Saints. Man, look at here. Aaron Rodgers is playing at a level that I've never seen him play at before. And we're talking about not even the 2010 Super Bowl year. Aaron Rodgers is unreal right now, and that offense is clicking. I think the Saints, without Michael Thomas again, will sputter. So I'm going to give the edge to the Packers. Next game is going to be
Mondays, Chiefs, Ravens.
Man, this has to be the marquee matchup of the week right here. We got the reigning MVP against the reigning Super Bowl MVP. I know that's a storyline everybody's using, but that's because that's exactly what it is. It's going to be a great football game. It's going to be Monday night. It's going to be electric. But the one thing that I give the edge to, and the reason why I'm taking the Ravens, don't get me wrong, I like the Chiefs, but I think their defense is just that much better. So I think I'm going to give the edge to the Ravens. We'll see what happens in the playoffs later on down the road. And those are my picks and Nick's picks. So far for the season, right now, we're sitting at 23-9. I think this will be a great week for us to have a really successful week. So those are my picks for the week. And this is your episode of Nick's Picks. And I am your host, Nick, the main event Barnes. May God bless you and you have a good night. We are out.